बाबा हो कोटि चंद्र जिने वदन उज्ज्वला बाबा हो कोटि चंद्र काला देशे वानमाला कोरे जालमाला काला देशे वानमाला शिवा शिवा शुक नारदा प्रेमे गदा गदा शिवा बाकति विनोदा देते गौरारा संपादा बाकति बाकति विनोदा देते गौरारा संपादा बाकति जया श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौरा भक्त वृंद जया श्री कृष्ण जया श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौरा भक्त वृंद जय श्री जया श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौरा भक्त वृंद जय श्री Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita. Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Jagannath. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra. Kishore Kishori Jaya, Kishore Kishori Jaya, Kishore Kishori Jaya, Kishore Kishori. किशोरी जय किशोर किशोरी जय किशोर किशोरी जय किशोर किशोरी जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमती डिवाइन ग्रेस अबाई चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी जगद्गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की नित्य लीला प्रविष्णु ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमती डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ षट गोस्वामी की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड श्री गिरि गोवर्धन की जय श्री वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जय पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथ पुरी धाम की जय मोस्ट मर्सीफुल लॉर्डशिप श्री श्री किशोर किशोरी की जय परम करुणा श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्र महारानी की जय गंगा माई यमुना माई की जय भक्ति देवी श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी की जय शिला प्रभुपाद ट्रांसेंडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय युग धर्म श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन यज्ञ की जय श्री हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय समावेत भक्त वृंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Please, you can Hare Krishna. Namaste Narsinghaya. Namaste Narsinghaya. Namaste Narsinghaya. Namaste Narsinghaya. Pralada Lada Daine. Pralada Lada हिरण्याकाशीपूर्वक्षः हिरण्याकाशीपूर्वक्षः तिलकङ्कानकालाये तिलकङ्कानकालाये इतो नृसिंहा परतो नृसिंहा इतो नृसिंहा परतो नृसिंहा यतो यतो यामि ततो नृसिंहा यतो यतो यामि ततो नृसिंहा बाहिर्नृसिंहा हृदये नृसिंहा बाहिर्नृसिंहा हृदये नृसिंहा न नरसिंहमदं शरणं प्रपदे नरसिंहमदं शरणं प्रपदे अवकरकमलवरेण कामधुतसिंहाम् ललिता हिरण्यकशिपु अनुरङ्गाम् केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश कर कमल केशवदीता नररूपा जगदीश हरे जगदीश हरे जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह 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 लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी जय नरसिंह देव 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 नरसिंह देव जय नरसिंह देव जय नरसिंह जय प्रहलाद महाराज 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 निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 भक्ति विघ्न विनाशक श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंह भगवान की जय भक्तराज प्रहलाद महाराज की जय साई गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि
So please repeat after me. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. I want to welcome you all for a very, very special Sunday night program. Before I get into the other details, is there anyone here for the very first time? Any first time guests? Very first time. Anyone else? Oh, well, thank you very much for coming. Please come up. We have a small gift for you as a token of our appreciation. And we hope that this is the first of many visits. Thank you. Jai Jagannath. Oh, he's here. Our guest for tonight is, for the persons who are here for the first time, there is Bhakta Luke standing there, right in the light spotlight of the projection. He is conducting an orientation for those who are newcomers to the temple. So please follow him after my announcements. So that way he'll take you downstairs for a little orientation, and then you come join us back here and for dinner upstairs after 6:30. So please, those who are here for the first time, please follow Luke downstairs. Thank you. Our guest for tonight is His Holiness Rita Dhwaja Swami. Haribo! His Holiness Ritadaju Maharaj was born and raised in a rural farming community in North Dakota, US. His first encounter with the devotees was in 1972 when some of the Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party came to his house and asked if they could take some flowers from his front yard. He gave them permission, but later on he went outside to see what they had taken. He realized that they had taken them all. It was a few years later, in 1975, that he came upon Srila Prabhupada's books, started chanting, visited a temple, and became a part of the Hare Krishna movement. He received initiation from Srila Prabhupada in June of 1977 in Gainesville, Florida. While serving as the Sankirtan leader and Bhakta leader in Gainesville, his service attitude caught the eye of His Holiness Hridayananda Maharaj, and he was asked to become Maharaja's traveling servant and secretary. For many years, he traveled with Maharaj, assisting in his preaching in South America and Florida. He accepted the renounced order of life in Mayapur on Gaur Purnima in 1985. Maharaj's true passion has been taking care of the youth in our society. For 7 years, he ran the Vaishnava Academy for Boys in Alachua, Florida. From 1990 to 2003, he traveled with groups of boys to Rath Yatras all across the US, and in 2004 took a group of youth to Europe. His preaching has taken him all over the world. However, he concentrated his efforts in Texas, Europe, and Asia. For the past few years, Maharaj has been spending all of his time in the United States, traveling between Florida, Tennessee, and Texas. Maharaj's open and friendly nature not only draws him to the youth, or the youth to him, but attracts and inspires the devotees where he goes. His humorous, practical, and down-to-earth preaching style is appreciated by all who meet him. And Maharaj has been coming for our Rath Yatra for about last year, and this year is a little earlier than Rath Yatra, but thank you very much for coming. We're very grateful for your association. So he'll be giving the Sunday evening lecture on preparing us for Rath Yatra, which is coming up very quickly, June 29, Sunday. So before Maharaj's presentation, I thought I'll take you through about 7, maximum 10 minutes of a quick presentation of the story of Kishore Kishori. Because Kishore Kishori's 42nd anniversary is coming up on June 17. And they've been gracing Chicago for the past 42 years. Now, you know, in general it's said that you should not ask a man his income and a woman her age. So if you ask Kishore Kishori what their age is, they may say 42, but they're eternally 16. And they're not lying. They are eternally youthful. So Kishora Kishori means youthful Krishna and youthful Srimati Radharani. Would Maharaj like to sit this side if you like, so you can see? Can someone move Maharaj's chair here? There's a chair there. Kalachalita, there's a chair there. Keep it here so my back's not to Maharaj. So let's see. So 1968, Srila Prabhupada passed through Chicago for the very first time on his way to Montreal. In 1971, His Holiness Kirtanananda Maharaj, he installed Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra Devi. These are Chicago's first deities. And the flyer said, the Lord of the Universe advents by fire sacrifice. I mean, at that time of the year, imagine if a flyer said, the Lord of the Universe advents by fire sacrifice. March 1972, Kishore Kishori are in a Bombay Pandal program with Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada saw them and said, these deities are exquisitely beautiful. They should be called Kishore Kishori Ki Jai. Where's that video? Okay. So if you go to YouTube and type in Srila Prabhupada in Bombay, there's a video. And in the video where the markers are 10 minutes, you'll see a little quick glimpse of Kishore Kishori for about 2 seconds, and Prabhupada sitting right next to Kishore Kishori there in Bombay. So June 17, 1972, Kishore Kishori were installed in the Evanston Temple. That was a few miles north of here. This is how Kishore looked on the day of installation. I mean, he still looks like that, but he looks a little different to us. December 1973, it said that in those days, the average expenses for flowers per week was, you want to take a guess? Huh? $1,000 a week for the flowers. In 1974, Gaura Purnima, Kishore Kishori were given new crowns. Apparently, it was a favorite for all the devotees. So between July 4th and 11th of 1975, Srila Prabhupada visited Chicago. The devotees inquire, everywhere it is Radha Krishna, why in Chicago it's Krishna Radha? Krishna's name appears first. And Srila Prabhupada said, because in this case, we saved the best for last, it increases the rasa. So Rath Yatra happened in downtown Chicago, not at Loyola Park. Remember, downtown Chicago. And one day, by Lord Jagannath's mercy, we hope to get back there. So let's see how they inspire us. And as some of you know, the altar, we have small brass Gaur-Nitai deities. They were installed also during that time. There were actually many sets of Gaur-Nitai deities that were installed together. I think almost 10 or 11 sets of Gaur-Nitai. And they all went with the Radha Damodar traveling party. And these are the first Gaur-Nitai deities ever installed in Chicago. They're on the altar, the small Gaur-Nitai deities. In 1976, large paper mache Gaur-Nitai deities arrived from Minnesota temple. After it's decided to merge that temple with the Chicago one. Originally, these Gaur-Nitai deities were worshipped in Winnipeg, Canada. These are not the same Gaur-Nitai deities. These are, the one being referred to here are paper mache. In 1977, marble Srila Prabhupada and Bhaktisiddhanta Murtis are installed on Prabhupada's appearance day. And that's the deities right here. This is Janmashtami of 1977. Radhashtami 1978. You were here for this Janmashtami in 77? Wow. Radhashtami 1978. 1978 big Rath Yatra with 3 carts, a traveling Rath Yatra show, and even dancing bears. Don't ask me what that is, because I don't know. This is what the previous temple presidents, I mean, that says it in a wrong way. The previous persons who were there, so I don't know what that means, dancing bears. In 1979, Vaisheshika Prabhu returns from India with a Narasimha Shila and places it on the altar. Actually, it's not Shila, it's what we call Tadiya. Tadiya is something connected to the Lord, like the devotees are called Tadiya, the paraphernalia is called Tadiya. And this Shila or stone is from a Narasimha Dev temple. And Vaisheshika Prabhu returned from India, got it and placed it on the altar. And today also, that Narasimha Shila is right on the altar next to Narasimha Dev's picture. So when you come up for darshan, please make sure that you see that Narasimha Tadiya is also on the altar. So final days in Evanston before moving to Rogers Park. 1980, the deities were moved here to Lund Street Temple in March of 1980. Shivaram Maharaj performed the yajna and Tamal Krishna Maharaj was also present. And 1981, the temple president here was Kalki Prabhu. Okay. This is Gaur Purnima of 1982. Different outfits and dresses. Um, in mid-November, during Govardhan Puja day, the deities were moved from upstairs, where we all have prasadam. The deities were upstairs on the third floor, and they were moved here to this altar. And it was also the time in 1986 that Govinda's buffet was open. Govinda, well, 1982. If you when you go upstairs for prasadam, you'll see that there are a few steps, and there's like a stage. That's where the deities used to be. So here's just a list of the temple presidents since 1971. In 42 years, uh, I'm not going to read the names, but there are some names that we recognize. Of course, Shivaram Maharaj's name is famous. Shubha Vilas Prabhu is in Toronto. Kalki Prabhu used to be here, he's in California. Of course, Pitushava Prabhu, we know Shankar Pandit Prabhu. Some of us know Vaninath Vasu Prabhu. Of course, we know Sunil Madhava Prabhu and Krishna Smarna Prabhu. So in 1991, these large marble Gornitai deities were installed. If you ask Pritushara Prabhu, he'll tell you the story that the deities were being brought into the temple room and they were still finalizing the tiles on the altar. It was so very much packed by the time they did everything. So they removed the paper mache Gornitai and the marble Gornitai deities were installed. And those paper mache deities were into certain householders' houses. Chaitanya Sharanam Prabhu and apparently Kishori Prabhu. In 1992, the first Devon Avenue Rath Yatra. What happened is we used to be in downtown, then the city of Chicago felt, oh, this is an Indian festival, you should do it in where Devon is, where all the Indian stores are. There was some back and forth, but that's what they decided, and we were there. The Jagannath deities came from Baltimore. So from there on, it's been the good old Devon Avenue. I'm going to skip fast. 1996, we all know is Prabhupada's centennial year. Okay. So I'm going to read this quickly. Radha Krishna deities. Their lordships were residing in St. Louis, and the devotees were desiring that they be painted. The deities were taken on to a jewelry store for painting. The jeweler told the devotees that they could pick the deities up in a week. When the devotees came to retrieve the deities, the jeweler told them that he was not quite done. Try again next week. This went on for some time until the jeweler confessed that he was done but just could not bear to be separated from the most beautiful dolls that he'd ever seen. Once, when Prabhupada was in Evanston, he was giving class. At the end of it, he looked at Kishore Kishori and asked them, "Can I go now?" Uh, second one. I'm doing the second one. On major festivals, the devotees of St. Louis would pack the temple and bring their Gornitai deities with them, come to Chicago to celebrate. They affectionately dubbed Sri Sri Kishore Kishori the sweethearts of the Midwest because they were the only Radha Krishna deities in the entire area at that time. I'm going to skip, but anyway, thank you for paying attention. June 17th, which is today is what? 15th. Tuesday is Kishore Kishori's 42nd anniversary. So please increase and enhance the quality of your chanting and hearing. And you're welcome to come to the temple for darshan. There will be special darshan, special decoration and all that. So please do come when you can make it. Thank you very much. I won't take Maharaj's time more. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiro Vanachari Yamuna Tiro Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Privajakacharya Asta Tara Satashi Shriman is Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON's BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Go Gopinath, Sham Kun, Radha Kun, Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagna Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru, Shri Gauranga, all glories to Shri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for allowing me to speak a little tonight. I usually say, is there anybody here for the first time? But they all left already, so I'll ask, is there anybody here for the last time? I learned that from Brahmatirtha. He always does that when he gives class. Anybody here for the first time? And a few people raise their hand. And then he says, well, is anybody here for the last time? And everybody laughs. We don't realize it may be. So Hare Krishna. I was, on the way here, I thought we would discuss a little from the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And I'll try to include a little promotion for Rath Yatra at the same time. I'll see how it works. So we begin by Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we'll read from the 3rd chapter, very well-known verse, 27. Some temples have things on the board. I'll just try to read the Sanskrit and the English and the purport, and maybe continue to the next verse, 28, because they're related. Prakriti kriyamanani gunar karmani sarvashaha ahankara vibhudatma kartahamiti manyate. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by the 3 modes of material nature. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. 2 persons, one in Krishna consciousness and the other in material consciousness, working on the same level, may appear to be working on the same platform, but there is a wide gulf of difference in their respective positions. The person of material consciousness is convinced by false ego that he is a doer of everything. He does not know that the mechanism of the body is produced by material nature, which is under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. The materialistic person has no knowledge that ultimately he is under the control of Krishna. The person in false ego takes all credit for doing everything independently, and that is a symptom of his nescience. He does not know that this gross and subtle body is the creation of material nature, under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and as such, his bodily and mental activities should be engaged in the service of Krishna and Krishna consciousness. The ignorant man forgets that the personality of Godhead is known as Rishikesha, or the master of the senses of the material body. For due to his long misuse of the senses and sense gratifications, he is factually bewildered by the false ego, which makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna. Om Agyantamarandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umanitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We are born in the darkness of ignorance, and our spiritual master is opening our heart with the torchlight of knowledge. And therefore we offer our most humble and respectful obeisances in the dust of his lotus feet. So this verse, very good. Isn't it? I think most people in this room must know this verse. And most people in this world have experienced what this verse speaks about. That the bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the false ego, thinks himself to be the doer of activities which are in actuality carried out by the three modes of material nature. So, this situation is pretty unique. I'll just read a little something later on in the chapter. Arjuna asks a very nice question. Artakeno payuktoyam papam karati purushaha anichan api bharshena bala eva niyojitaha. By what is one impelled to sinful activities, as if being engaged by force? In other words, something else is making him do it. So Krishna explains, karma esha krodha esha rajaguna samonbhavaha, that it is lust only, O Arjuna, which is born in the mode of passion and later transformed or becomes wrath or ignorance. So after that, Krishna explains where this kama or desire resides. This sinful enemy which attacks us resides within the senses, the mind, and the intelligence, and covers our real knowledge of the living entity, and it bewilders us. So because we are discussing this verse that explains that those who are covered by this ignorance are bewildered by false ego, they think themselves the doer of activities. So Prabhupada explains this very clearly in the commentary to text 40. And I'll just read it. The enemy has captured different strategic positions in the body of the conditioned soul, and therefore Lord Krishna is giving hints of those places so that one who wants to conquer the enemy may know where he can be found. The mind is the center of all the activities of the senses, and thus when the mind hears about sense objects, the mind generally becomes the reservoir of all ideas for sense gratification. And as a result, the mind and the senses become repositories for this lust. Next, the intelligent department becomes the capital of such lustful propensities. Intelligence is the immediate next-door neighbor of the spirit soul. Lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with matter, and thus with the mind and senses. The spirit soul becomes addicted to enjoying the material senses and mistakes it as true happiness. So this is our situation here, that the living entity, the individual soul, by nature is pure and has prema or love for Krishna within the heart. This is our constitutional position. But along with the perfection of the spiritual world comes independence. If there was no independence in the spiritual world and we were forced to be there, it wouldn't be a perfect place. There has to be freedom of choice. So by misuse of that independence which we are given and we're meant to use to serve Krishna, we misuse it and we fall into the material world. So in this section, after Arjuna asks this question, Artakena Prayuktoyam, Krishna explains that it's this desire, what it is. And the living entity, that pure love for Krishna, which is deep within the heart, we fall into the material world and it becomes touched. that love for Krishna becomes touched by the three modes of material nature. And when it becomes touched by those modes of material nature, that prem, or that love we have for Krishna, becomes transformed into lust or desire for material sense gratification in this material world. Srila Prabhupada, in that commentary to that Kama Esha verse, he explains just like milk, if it becomes touched by sour tamarind, becomes yogurt, becomes something different. So in the same way, our natural loving propensity towards the Supreme Lord has now been touched by the modes of material nature, and we're experiencing this desire. So now, sometimes devotees, I remember 40 years ago, one devotee came to me and says, I can't control my senses. What am I going to do? I just can't control my senses. So we were discussing that point. Everybody has 5 knowledge-acquiring senses, 5 working senses, which are grouped about the mind, and we have to deal with them. So why is it so strong? Why are these things so powerful? Is explained because it is a reflection of our love for Krishna. It is just a perverted reflection. Now it's contaminated. And we're searching for that prema, that love, that anandam buddhi vardhanam, that ocean of transcendental pleasure within the material world in sense gratification. So what happens is that being influenced by these modes of nature, the living entity thinks that if I do a certain thing, I'll become happy. And if I don't do this thing, which I don't like, I'll also become happy. And if I have to do something I don't want to do, I won't be happy. But when we analyze the situation, we can understand that once we enter this material body, and each and every one of us has a specific model. In the 6th chapter, it's described, Srila Prabhupada describes that all of our experiences here are circumstantial and temporary. That we find ourselves in different circumstances. Sometimes we're in a human body, sometimes animal body, bird body, this body, that body. But we have, this variety of different bodies, but ultimately we're the soul inside, and we're just witnessing and experiencing, and that body is described in the Bhagavatam that once, according to our consciousness, even in the 8th chapter, according to our consciousness at the time of death, we'll gain that, we'll enter into that arena according to our desires. So once we desire something, we are given a facility. A material nature is equipped completely to give us exactly what we need to satisfy the desires that we had in our previous life within this new body. And so we go through life and we think, I'm choosing to live in Chicago. I'm choosing to go to the beach on vacation. I'm choosing to do this. I'm choosing to do that. But in actuality, what's going on is the modes of material nature are pushing. And whatever correlates positively in relation to the object of the senses, we become attracted to. Some people are attracted to live in the city. Some people are attracted to live in the country. And they think they're choosing, but it's just their nature acting. And they're bewildered. They're totally bewildered. They don't know that inside their spirit soul, and that this body is a product of material nature, which is under the control of Krishna. So ultimately, every single living entity is under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Our choice is we can choose to be under the control of the superior nature with Krishna in the spiritual, or to just be covered and under the control of material nature. So the living entity thinks he's bewildered, totally bewildered, and thinks that he's choosing. Just like if you go someplace, I want the red one. Why do you want the red one? Your nature is attracted to the red object. Someone wants the blue one. Someone wants the green one. That's why they have so many different things. The other day I was at the grocery store. I needed some toothpaste, but anyway. And I was just standing there, and there was like 100 different kinds of toothpaste. I didn't know what to do. There were so many different kinds of toothpaste. I said, it's just, and a lady came by and she was standing there looking, and I said, there's just too many choices. And she said, you're right. And there's just too many choices. Why are there so many choices? Because somebody figured out that somebody will else want, there's a group of people who will have the nature that will want a particular object, and they'll buy it, and I can make money. It's simple. So the living entity, according to this verse, they're bewildered, as I was saying. And Prabhupada explains in the beginning of the commentary that there are two people working side by side, may appear to be working on the same level. One is in material consciousness, and the other is in Krishna consciousness, or God consciousness. And they appear to be doing the same thing, but Prabhupada explains that there's a wide gulf of difference between their activities, because one is simply engaged in the activity for their sense gratification, whereas the other is engaged for the service of Krishna. So there's a wide gulf of difference. I remember one time I was on the University of Florida, and I explained this in Washington, D.C. at the Krishna House. Funny how it comes up a couple of times a year. I was on the campus, and one student asked me, well, if you're so spiritual, why are you wearing a watch? And I thought, okay, what else does he want me to take off? Anyway, do you want me to take off my clothes? I mean, where's it going to end? So I asked him, I said, is the watch material or spiritual? And he said, it's material. I said, okay, what defines spiritual or material? And he said, well, it's made out of plastic and metal, so it's material. I said, is that the definition of material and spiritual? What is the real definition? So then he was a little confused because nobody asks questions like that. So he was thinking, and I said, I'll tell you. The definition between material and spiritual is how it's utilized. Everything in this material world is basically neutral. It's how it's used which makes it good or bad, or spiritual or material. Srila Prabhupada gives the example, the surgical knife in the hand of the expert surgeon can remove the disease, but the surgical knife in the hand of the expert thief can take your wallet. So is the knife good or bad? It's good in the hand of the surgeon, and it's bad in the hand of the thief. So in the same way, whatever we have, and like Krishna explains, yat karoshi jadasnasi jatahoti dadatiyat, that whatever you do, whatever you give away, whatever austerities you perform, whatever you eat, everything, from A to Z, whatever you do that as an act of love for me, Krishna. And that doesn't mean you can become a bank robber or something like that. There are limitations. But generally within the scope of normal activities, we can do anything for Krishna. And everything can be engaged in the service of Krishna. That's what makes things spiritual or material. So those two people working in the factory, one is thinking of his relationship with Guru and Krishna, and the other is thinking, I get money and I can, this is why I saw a billboard in Dallas that said, this beer is for you. He's thinking he'll get a nice beer after work or something. So that's not, there's two different things, completely different things. So this bewilderment is there. And this covering is very, very thick. It's so thick that even those amongst us here who are endeavoring to overcome that find it difficult. It's not easy. Because Krishna explains that Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Dharantiya, that this material energy, it's divine because it's coming from me. But it's very difficult to overcome. But if one surrenders themselves under the service of the Lord, then one can be relieved. Especially become in contact with a devotee. I can project or guess that every single person in this room has come here because they have met a devotee, another devotee, has invited them, or they knew about it from the devotee. That happened to me. My little intro where they took all the flowers out of my front yard, I didn't even know what they were, who they were. I saw a person come to my door and he had a pink hat, pink shirt, pink sweatshirt, pink pants, pink socks, pink shoes, and he asked me to take flowers. I said, take what you want. I didn't know it was a Hare Krishna till like 3 or 4 years later. And I walked into a devotee that was from here, Madhusutta. He was a book distributor, his brother. He gave all the books to his brother. I walked into his brother's house. I opened up a book, and Prabhupada said, animals run around on 4 legs, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Human beings go around on 4 wheels, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. What is the difference? I was a university student and working for the government, and I thought I knew everything, but I couldn't answer the question. What is the difference? I was thinking, I said, this is really cool. This is amazing. What is the difference between 4 legs and 4? It's the same activity. And then Prabhupada answered, he said, the difference is that one is polished and the other is unpolished. That's the only difference. That, inspired me to read more and more and more. Finally went to the temple. And the old Gaura-Nitai deities that were here, they were in Winnipeg when I joined. And Winnipeg moved to Minneapolis, and from Minneapolis we moved to Chicago. And between Minneapolis and Chicago, I moved to Gainesville. So I'm now the Chicago devotee. It's simple math. So now we're going to just describe the next idea, which is the 28th verse, that describes that one who is in knowledge of the absolute truth does not engage himself in the senses and sense gratification, knowing well the difference between work and devotion and the work for fruitive activities. So this is the person, the other one was the person in ignorance or bewilderment. Now we're coming to the point of the person who's actually in knowledge. The person who knows that because I have knowledge of myself as soul, I know that this body may have different demands. As Rupa Goswami explains, Vacho Vegam, Manasa Kruta Vegam, Jiva Vegam, Uttara Pasta Vegam. It may have desires to speak, anger, different things, taste, the stomach, this, that. But I know I'm not that body. So that person that has this knowledge does not engage his senses in the activities of sense gratification, because we understand the difference between these two things, very clearly the difference. So Prabhupada explains in his commentary that the knower, one who has this knowledge, is convinced of his awkward position in this material world. In the introduction to this Bhagavad Gita, there's a very nice, we can dance to the music. There's a very nice statement in the introduction where Prabhupada says, just what is the Bhagavad Gita? He asks the question, what is the Bhagavad Gita? And he answers by saying the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is to deliver mankind from the nescience of material existence. Every man is in difficulty in so many ways, as Arjuna also was in difficulty having to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna surrendered unto Sri Krishna, and consequently, this Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Not only Arjuna, but every one of us is full of anxieties because of this material existence. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence. Our existence is eternal, but somehow or other we are put into asat, and that refers to non-existence. So when we come to spiritual knowledge, we have the opportunity to overcome all material obstacles. Because what is that Veda means knowledge. So what do we use knowledge for? We use knowledge to gain satisfaction, happiness, promotion, this thing and that thing. So this Krishna conscious knowledge is the highest knowledge. That's described later in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna explains Raja Vijam Raja Guyam, that this is a king of all knowledge and the most secret of all secrets. Shri Kishore Kishore. So we know that our real identity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that somehow or another we have become entrapped in this material existence or this material conception of life. It's okay. One who has this knowledge engages in activities of Krishna consciousness and becomes naturally unattached to the activities of the material senses, as I said before, which are all circumstantial and temporary. That's the nature. So we have the opportunity here within this group to do so many things. Srila Prabhupada explained that he established these temples as oases and bases for the propagation or the dissemination of spiritual knowledge to the community that we live in. So in 2 weeks, I think it's 2 weeks, 29th, 2 weeks from today is Rath Yatra, right? By good fortune, I was here last year. What's left of my family lives here, and so I come once a year to visit, and I attend the temple. So we have this Rath Yatra festival, not for our own sense gratification, but for the satisfaction of the Lord and for the opportunity to share what we have been given by Prabhupada and Krishna to the inhabitants of the Chicago area. There should be no hesitation on inviting different people. We should invite everyone. There is no outcast. Everybody can come. There is no discrimination. And he even said one time, even a child can chant Hare Krishna. I see sometimes children do that. So in Chicago, I don't know exactly where it goes to some park, right? It's Loyola Park, yeah. So we have this opportunity. Jagannath is the Lord of the universe. He's the universal Lord. He invented with a fire. What was the thing? It appeared from the fire sacrifice. What was the advertisement again? It was on your slideshow. Yeah, through fire sacrifice. I remember one time, right before I moved into the temple, there was a yoga or meditation magazine, and I opened it up, and it had a picture of Satsvarup Maharaj performing a fire sacrifice. I think it was afterwards. I think it was like an initiation or something. But the magazine put the caption, "Hare Krishna, sit down for noon meal." And there's like 4 or 5 devotees completely bald and perspiring, and a huge fire like this high, and the caption was, "Hare Krishna, sit down for noon meal." I guess we have a tofu barbecue every day in the Hare Krishna temple, or curd bird tofu, whatever. So we have a great opportunity. I was in, I don't know how to say it, Naperville today, and I was bringing out the point that I'd like to also share with this group, and that is that we have been given a very wonderful situation by the grace of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. Very wonderful situation. When I was in Dallas, we were reading in one group, and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada was explaining the nature of the material world, that you can't be happy or enjoy. But then he said that actually the devotees of Krishna, if they can actually enjoy the material world. Others, they don't know how to do it. I remember Shivaram Maharaj, he was the temple president for here for a while. He was my first temple president in Winnipeg in '75. And he would tell me that there's no enjoyment in the material world. And I told him, Well, just come stay with me. I'll show you how to do it. You just don't know how. You just don't know what to do. But after a week, he had me convinced that there was no material enjoyment. Didn't take very long. The first Srimad Bhagavatam class I ever heard was 2 hours long, from the second canto. Men who are like hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. And by the end of the class, Sri Ram Maharaj had me convinced I was a hog, a dog, and a camel, and an ass. So we have to go out and tell people they're like hogs, dogs, camels, and asses in a very gentle way, in a proper way. So I explained this afternoon in my recent travels that we have been blessed so much by Prabhupada and Krishna that we have, just like I was explaining today, that when one takes birth, one is indebted to the family, the forefathers, the demigods, so many things. And when one takes birth in the Hare Krishna movement, or enters the Hare Krishna movement, he has another debt, and that is to pay Srila Prabhupada back for what we've been given. And that payment is through the distribution of books, the holy name, and prasad. We have to make endeavors to do this. Just like I have my backpack today, but inside my backpack, I have my little green pack, which I keep small books. And wherever we go, and I suggest that everybody pick up a few books today from the book table, and wherever you go, or whoever you meet, give them a book. You'll be surprised. I started book distribution in 1975. A few years before that, I was a university student. Again, I was working, and I became a vegetarian by reading that our bodies aren't meant for being meat eaters; they're meant to be vegetable eaters. And I went home. It was like 1972, 73, and I told my mother, I don't eat meat anymore. And she had experienced many different things with me during the 60s and 70s, which to this day I don't know if it's repent or regret or come to terms with myself. So when I told her that, she looked me straight in the eye and she said, "Oh God, if you will go, I'll pay for your psychiatrist." She thought it was she thought I totally jumped off the boat at that point. Nowadays, I was explaining, like in Napersville, if I'm on the airplane, I always order a fruit plate. And so the flight attendant comes by and she says, Mr. Maven, you have a special meal? And I said, yes, I'm a vegetarian. I ordered a fruit plate. And the person next to me says, oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could be a vegetarian. So from the psychiatric ward to appreciation within a few decades, right? So people they're interested in these things. So we have this opportunity. Just like I was explaining today and recently, that even sometimes I have to go to the store. Like I want toothpaste. So I have my little bag. I always carry it with me. There's books in it. And I have temple invitations or addresses are in the back. So when you go through the checkout stand, they always ask you, how are you today? Right? They always say that. Every person that comes through, they say, how are you? And I say, well, you really want to know? And they go, what? I say, well, you say that a lot. Do you really want to know? And they'll say, okay. And I say, well, I'm caught in a cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, and I'm trying to work my way out of it. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, take a look. We take birth, we grow old, we become diseased, and we die. So we have to do something about this. There's an emergency, there's a fire. So I'm thinking about these things. Then I give them a book. You can't ask for a donation because they can't take it out of the till, but it's only 50 cents. So I was explaining today that through my family graciousness, I can afford $5 a day. So these things are there. These opportunities are always there to give Krishna consciousness. We just have to we have to always be prepared. Always be prepared. And always eager to give Krishna consciousness to others. With that eagerness, there's that word, akuti, eager, that eagerness. If we are eager for it, Krishna will send people to us. Because I did the math. According to Bhagavad Gita, there, in the 7th chapter, there is a verse that describes out of many thousands among men, one may be interested in inquire about spirituality. Out of many thousands. So I did the math, and I figured it out. Even if it's only 1,000, it's supposed to be many, but even if it's only 1,000, out of 1,000 people, one may be interested. So if we go out to give Krishna consciousness in the form of book distribution, if we can approach one person, 20 people an hour, that's one every 3 minutes, which is, again, a lot more than what it really is. And we work 10 hours a day. That means 200 people a day. So you work 5 days, that's 1,000 people. So if you sell more than one book a week, at 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, you're getting Krishna is sending people to you that need to get a book. That's the math. The math is that the maybe one out of many thousands will be interested to inquire. But Krishna's, in the 3rd chapter, it's described that one should not disturb the mind of the ignorant. But Prabhupada writes in the purport, the devotees, they actually try to penetrate a little bit. We don't mind. Just a little bit of penetration. Like a little Hare Krishna. Nothing else. A little, I would presume most people here are working. So bring a little prasadam with you to work and share it with a coworker. You'll be surprised what happens. I remember they used to have an airline in Florida when I was the regional secretary. I think it was Air Florida or Florida Air, and it went from Orlando to everywhere in the state. So I used to carry these boxes of carob sweets, and I'd give them to the flight attendants. Sweets. I remember one time I got on the plane, and I was sitting on my chair looking out the window, and I see a flight attendant go off the plane next to me and come over. I don't know, whatever. And she comes on the plane, and she says, I saw you get on this plane. I'm not on this flight. I'm on the other flight going to someplace else, but I want my sweets. They become addicted. I was in Washington, D.C. one time, distributing, and I was dressed like this, and some student came up to me and said, do you have any chapatis and sabji with you? He got prasadam somewhere, and he knew that I probably had some. I did. Just enough for myself, but I shared it. And I remember one time I was on a round the world ticket, and I flying from Los Angeles to Honolulu, and I got on the plane, and the flight attendant says, oh, I had a bag with me, my book bag, my backpack. She says, I know what's in there. I'm sitting next to you, we're going to share. So they know Hare Krishnas. We give out books, we give out prasadam, and we give out the holy name. This is our efforts, wherever we can. And if we're in this consciousness, Krishna will arrange special things to happen. So many special things. And even if the most unusual, we have so many unusual experiences. So many in our efforts to give out Krishna. And it becomes Anandam Buddhi Vardhana. It becomes a source of transcendental happiness, which can't be, once one experiences that there is, in that verse, Chaitodarpana Marjanam, there's one portion that explains that through this chanting, the heart becomes open. The heart opens up. And when the heart opens up, automatically compassion for other living entities becomes manifested. As we chant Hare Krishna, the heart, which is like steel framed in due to material desires. But this chanting of Hare Krishna is so potent that even the steel-framed heart becomes softened. And when that heart becomes softened, automatically a natural desire or this rise of compassion becomes manifested. And with that, we no longer see other living entities with envy. Envy means that somebody has something that I should have. I should get it. He shouldn't have it, I should have it. But when we come to this point of purifying the heart, then we see the living entities in this world. We don't see them as enjoying something that we think we should enjoy, but we see them in suffering with something that we would have normally suffered with. That the intelligent person, he doesn't take part in this idea of senses and sense object, because he knows that they are only a source of misery. When you see somebody in the material world, they may appear to be happy, but that happiness is it's temporary, it's not eternal, it doesn't last. There's two things, hankering and lamenting. That's the situation in the material world. So we have the opportunity to give pure or true happiness to the living entity in the form of transcendental books, transcendental prasad, and the holy name. So we'll go out in 2 weeks, and we'll be at Loyola Park, and everybody has the opportunity to give Krishna. And we participate in the kirtan with the idea that I'm not just a visitor, I'm a participant. I'm meant to really try to connect to Krishna now. And by that connection, there's no loss or diminution. Everything is contained within the holy name. There's nothing that is left to be desired once one enters the arena of Sankirtan. So, I wish you all well on the Rath Yatra day. I wish that next year maybe I'll adjust my schedule so I can come for Rath Yatra, but it's nice to visit and dovetail my family responsibilities with my real family responsibilities, the devotees of Krishna. So I'll stop here. Are there any questions or any comments that you'd like to ask? I was at Rollins College in Winter Park, Florida, and I gave a lecture at the university, and it was an 8 o'clock class on comparative religion, 8 o'clock in the morning. So I gave the introduction, and I asked her if there's any questions, and nobody raised their hands. So I had a brahmachari assistant at that time, and I said, okay, take out the hair clippers, we'll shave everybody up. So then the hands went up. I said, if you don't have questions, that means you agree with everything I say. And if you agree with everything I say, then you should be like me. And if you have something better, and I should be with you, tell me about it. Because I'm interested in the best thing. I'm doing Krishna consciousness because I understand to be the best thing. And I'll go, obviously I'm willing to do anything. I walk around in a skirt, I shave my head, I gave up eating, well, I did that before I became a devotee, but, we give up so many things. We're serious about what we do. So if you have something better, show me. And if you don't, join me. We got a few questions, but actually one boy became a devotee. He's a devotee, and his father was in charge of Hilton hotels or something like that, and he became a devotee from the class, and he's in Luxembourg or something like that. I don't know, someplace in Europe. One down and many to go. Yes. Why is Krishna blue? Krishna is blue, yellow, green. He has many colors. He's like a rainbow, yeah. He's beautiful. Any other questions? Yes, way in the back. I can't hear. You can meet Bhakta Luke, and he will explain the whole system to you. He is very expert. Bhakta Luke, is he still here? Yeah. So please introduce this gentleman to Bhakta Luke, who can give you the introductory course to Krishna consciousness. He's a very nice gentleman. I'm sure you'll like him.
Thank you, sir. Now it works.
Okay. So we'll stop here. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
They will call me and say, one of these days, so I'll go
Krishna Padaya Krishna Prasthana Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Krishna Prasthana Bhutale Swami Charine Vishesha Saraswati Charine Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Rati Prabhu said he was probably just gonna sit down.
Oh, is it? I was gonna say let's switch. You wanna say last one? I can say I'm not ready. Is there a reason we're using this one instead?
No, I can switch now. Would you like the other one?
Yeah. So. Is Rati gonna come? Okay. This one, I think this one is probably more accurate than this. This one is a little. Okay, 20 minutes. I'll have to. Maybe y'all can do it. You guys are good. I'm not so. I need to practice. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Even if there was more people, it'd still be the same amount singing. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Ram Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Ram Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Ram. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Nitai Gaur Premanande. Jai Jai Sri
It does it differently though. And then here in Dutch it's more like